Alrighty, welcome to whatever this is. So it says on the calendar 9.3.3. I'm gonna mix it up and go over the closure problems. 9.3.3, basically just a building off of what we've been doing all chapter, but I would rather just kind of use this time to review everything that's been on there. So the first one we'll take a look at is 9-99. Gives you two inequalities and asks if a point is on fits the inequality. So we get y is less than or equal to negative 3x plus 4, and then y is greater than 5x minus 2. Alright, so we have our two equations, inequalities. They ask if 0, 4 is a solution to the system at the right. So if you have a graph paper, you can throw that in the graph paper, right? You can sketch it, you can see if it checks out. Okay, you can also plug them in to see if they work, so you don't technically have to graph this. So you plug both of those in. First one, we get 4 is less than or equal to negative 3 times 0 plus 4. So we end up getting 4 is, that cancels. 4 is less than or equal to 4. Is 4 less than or equal to 4? Yes, it is. Okay, so that one checks out. Plug it into this one now. We get 4 is greater than 5 times 0 minus 2. That cancels. Okay, is 4 greater than negative 2? It is. Okay, so since those both work, check plus check equals happy face, right? They both work, so we know it's in the shaded region. Okay, if I wanted to try and sketch this to the best of my abilities, okay, y-intercept of 4, slope of negative 3. We're shading below. Okay, then we take our other one at negative 2, slope of 5. It's going to be a dashed line. Okay, and we're shading above. So it gets hard to tell, but where they overlap is in this region here. Looks kind of funky, but so is 0, 4 in that region? Well, this was 0, 5 right here, so 0, 4 should be right there. So yeah, it falls in the ship region. Obviously, if you have graph paper, it's going to look a lot neater and nicer than that. You can test, okay, or you can just plug the points in and go about it that way. So that is just checking to see if a point works for graphing inequalities. I also just wanted to graph two of them for that review as well. So that is 99. 101 is interesting because that's from chapter 8. Okay, but it's a good review. The cost to rent a pair of bowling shoes has decreased 10% over the past several years. If the current cost is $5, write an equation of exponential function to model this situation, then make a table of the values. Okay, so it has decreased per year, 10% per year over the last several years. The current cost is $5. Okay, so really we get an equation that looks like this. Okay, 5 times a, our initial value, whatever it was whenever we first started. I think what they wanted to say is it started at $5, okay? And so that would be kind of where you start at. Remember, we're decreasing in value, so we have y equals 5 times 0.9 raised to the x. So if you want to figure out how much shoes are going to cost in 10 years, you plug in a 10 right there and you can get your answer. But that's just, this is the part that I always see people screw up on when you're talking about decreasing exponentially. Okay, you don't just plug in that number there, it's always 1 minus whatever your percentage is. 102, solving systems of equations. Okay, not inequalities, but solving systems of equations. We'll just do one of them. Let's do B, since it's a little more confusing. Negative 4x plus y equals 5. 2x equals negative y minus 13. So we either want to use elimination or substitution. Okay, it's very close to being lined up right now. Okay, we want to make it so that the equal sign lines up. So right now the y is on the left side here, but it's on the right side here. It's not super ideal, so let's move the y over there. So now we have negative 4x equals negative y plus 5. Okay, now everything's lined up, it's on the correct side of the equal sign. So we can either eliminate the x's or the y's. Okay, I'm going to multiply this one by negative 1, gives me negative 2x equals a positive y and a positive 13 now. Alright, y's cancel, 5 and 13 is 18, negative 4x and negative 2x is negative 6. Divide by negative 6 now, and I get negative 3, so I can plug that in to one of these equations and solve for y. So if I plug it into the, I'll plug it into this one, it'll be a little easier. So I get negative 6 equals negative y plus 13, minus 13, but I'm gonna add the 13 to the other side, so I get 7 equals negative y. Divide by that negative 1. I now get a y value of 7 to go along with the x value of negative 3. Solve each inequality. Yeah, we can do that. 103. Let's see, let's take a look at D. Yeah. The most complex one anyways. 2 times the value of x minus 5 is less than negative 1. Okay, so remember solving absolute values. We want to get the absolute value on a side by itself. So first thing I'm going to do is add the 5 over here. Gives me a positive 4. Now I'm going to divide by 2. So I get absolute value of x is less than 2. So now that we got the absolute value on a side by itself, write our two different inequalities. First one we leave the same. Second one we flip the sign and we make that negative. We have negative 2 here, positive 2 here. We want to be less than 2 but greater than negative 2. So it's going to be in the middle there. And it's going to have open circles. Okay? Can't forget about the open circles. Remember, if there's a line underneath, we'd have a closed circle. But any of the numbers in between negative 2 and 2 would make this inequality accurate. keep going down the road here. We'll do A. And we'll do B. B's a little more tricky. But write an exponential equation. Y equals A times B to the X. Goes through the points 0, 3.5, and 2, 31.5. Okay, so they actually give you the y-intercept right here, which is great. That's going to be your A value, but in case you forgot, we can always plug it in. Plug in those two numbers for X and Y. Okay, anything raised to the 0 power is just 1. So we get our A value of 3.5. Now when we plug those in for X and Y, we can plug that in for A as well. Oops. All right. So we have 31.5 equals 3.5 times B squared. Divide by 3.5, we can assume that's 9. Square root both sides, you get a B value of 3. So A value of 3.5, B value of 3. So our equation Y equals 3.5 times 3 raised to the X. Just plugging in 3.5 for A, 3 for B. Works out nicely. Assuming that 31.5 divided by 3.5 is 9, which I'm confident it is. Um, 105, writing explicit equations, we'll skip that. 106, dealing with triangle congruencies. Good review since we hadn't done that in a while. Some of you will still need to clear that essential before we get out of school. We get something that looks like this. K, L, M, P, and Q. Okay, the information it gives us is that M is the midpoint of both K, Q. So if that's the midpoint, we know these two lines are congruent, and it's also the midpoint of PL. So we have that as well. And then it tells us that KML is congruent to PMQ. We already kind of knew that since they are on opposite sides of an X. Vertical angles are always going to be congruent. So it's asking us to use a flow chart. I'm not going to, but we know that triangle KML is going to be congruent to triangle QMP because of side congruency. Alright, we got two sides that match up there, two sides there, and then the angles are in between them. And so we checks all the boxes for side angle side. Alright, and then 107, we'll look at B. So we have absolute value of x minus 5 equals 17. Now we want to get the absolute value on the side by itself, which we do already have. So we get x minus 5 equals 17. And then we also get x minus 5 equals negative 17. We add 5 to both sides. We get x equals 22 and x equals negative 12. Okay. 9-108. Check your answers. What problems do you feel confident about? Oh, most of them. I feel pretty confident in most of them. It's pretty funny. Does that say that at the end of every chapter? It's hilarious. But yeah, I mean, those are a lot of the review problems, pretty straightforward. I got the answer key for those as well, if you'd like to go over those. If you got any questions, let me know. I'm around, hanging out.